In today's video, we're taking a look at the 1981 John Carpenter classic Escape from New York, a dystopian sci-fi film he directed, and he also co-wrote it with Nick Castle and co-scored it with Alan Howarth. Carpenter is certainly a very talented filmmaker. The film introduces us to Kurt Russell's legendary anti-hero Snake Plissken. Russell has had a very long career, and when I think of him at his best, I think of him in this role. Beginning in the year 1988, we're told that the crime rate of the United States has increased 400%. Manhattan Island has been transformed into a maximum security prison for the country, surrounded by a large containment wall. The security guards are all along the perimeter. Once you enter this giant prison, you don't come out. The film then jumps forward to 1997. Snake Plissken is about to be sent to this prison for robbing the Federal Reserve. Meantime, a small jet in restricted airspace is in trouble. It's Air Force One, and the president has been taken prisoner by the National Liberation Front of America. Donald Pleasance plays President John Harker. He's placed into an escape pod and dropped off in the city as the plane crashes. When a team of guards led by Police Commissioner Bob Houck, played by Lee Van Cleef, go to check on the pod, they see that it's empty. They're told by a man named Romero, played by Frank Doubleday, that if they're not up in the air and gone in 30 seconds, the president dies. He then shows them the president's ring finger wrapped in a handkerchief. So the mission is to rescue the president from the prison of Manhattan Island, and who do we think is up to the task? So Houck approaches Plissken with an offer. If he rescues the president from the terrorist gang within 24 hours, the charges against him will be dropped. He will be given a full pardon. There's a lot of fantastic one-liners throughout this film, especially from the character of Plissken. When Houck tells him that the president was on board the plane, Plissken replies, "The president of what?" He's got a very dry, caustic sense of humor. He's given a full briefing on the kinds of challenges and individuals he's going to face when he's inside the prison. He'll land on the World Trade Center, but when he goes to the medical center, they inject him with 2 microscopic capsules. They're embedded in his arteries. Basically, they'll dissolve in 22 hours, 2 explosives that will kill him in seconds. He's obviously furious about this, but the best Houck can do is promise to remove them when he completes the job. There's something very quintessentially 80s action movie about this film. From its direction, tone, computer graphics, music, sound design, characterization, lighting, and action sequences, Escape from New York is just a wonderfully cult classic 80s nostalgia movie. While walking through a theater, he's approached by Cabby, a surprisingly chipper man played by Ernest Borgnine. He knows who Plissken is, or maybe I'll just call him Snake from now on. He is, after all, a very famous criminal. It's not long before Snake locates the remains of Air Force One and even the president's tracker, but it's on the arm of a mentally ill homeless guy. Incidentally, this guy is played by the same guy who played Red the Bum in Back to the Future, George Buck Flower. So by all appearances the president is dead, but Houck refuses to allow Snake to leave. He has to try to track down the president in the desolate remains of New York City. I think if you like the darker, grittier aesthetic and feel of 80s action movies like RoboCop, The Terminator, Blade Runner, and Alien, Escape from New York fits very well among those movies. While 70s dystopian movies were all about totalitarianism and environmental and population disaster, 80s dystopian sci-fi movies really dealt with the fallout of that. They were more post-apocalyptic in their outlook, and the fantastic production design of New York really sells that theme very convincingly. So, Snake is attacked by a huge, insane mob of crazies who come out at night. Cabby shows up and rescues him in a New York cab. He seems very chuffed to have Snake in his taxi. He tells him at gunpoint, the Duke has the president. Duke being a major New York gangster played by Isaac Hayes. Cabby first takes Snake to see Brain, Harold Hellman, an associate of Duke. Brain is played by Harry Dean Stanton, and he and Snake have a past together, but there's no love lost between them. Duke has a great introduction. I mean, who doesn't love a large Cadillac with chandeliers mounted to the front of it? Snake learns that the Duke is planning to lead a mass escape from the prison, and he intends to use the president as a human shield as he crosses the main bridge. They steal one of the cars of Duke's henchmen and have to first get through Broadway which is filled with crazies who like to line the streets and throw objects at passing cars. So it's like the real Broadway then. So with the help of Brain and his partner Maggie, played by Andrea Barbo, Snake infiltrates the location where the president is being held. He frees the president, who's pretty beat up, and they escape together, but they're both captured again pretty quickly. Duke makes demands of the authorities, amnesty for all prisoners in exchange for the president. Meantime, Maggie and Brain intend to steal Snake's glider in order to escape, but ultimately nothing comes of this plan. The president has with him a briefcase which is handcuffed to his wrist. Inside is a cassette with a recording of an important message for a summit, something to do with averting nuclear disaster. Meantime, Snake is forced to fight a giant of a man to the death before he gets the opportunity to meet up with the others. With the president freed once again, Snake drives Cabby's car to the bridge, but they hit a mine and Cabby is killed. Then Brain is killed by another mine. Maggie ultimately sacrifices herself so that Snake and the president can get away. There's a final punch-up at the boundary wall between Snake and Duke, and the president ultimately shoots him dead. The explosives in Snake's arteries are neutralized with only seconds to spare. Talk about close. In the end, Snake is a free man, and the president thanks Snake for his efforts. But when Snake asks him about how he feels about the people who died so that he could escape, he says he wants to thank them for their sacrifice. But his tone is one of complete apathy. The guy couldn't care less. Snake is disgusted that it was this he was forced to fight for. He turns down Houck's offer of a job, and the president proceeds to play the tape for the summit that he couldn't attend, only to find that it's the cassette from Cabby's car, and it plays music. Snake had the tape the entire time, which he destroys at the end of the movie. Escape from New York is a fun cult classic action movie. Rewatching it again, it really hasn't dated too badly, actually. The filmmakers made very good use of the film's small $6 million budget, in 1980s dollars, of course. The practical effects are decent, and the film is paced very well, and the production design is so well done you really get a sense of the scope of this dystopian New York City. Of course, keeping the film to primarily night shooting certainly helps that. Snake Plissken is a badass, loner anti-hero who you can't help but root for, because I think he ultimately is the way he is because the world had made him that way. He's jaded, misanthropic, and cynical because of his life experiences. He doesn't believe in fighting for a system that perpetuates inequality, corruption, or hypocrisy, as evidenced by his question to the president at the end of the movie. So his attitude by the film's climax is, to hell with it, let it all burn, which is also, incidentally, his attitude at the end of the sequel, Escape from LA, which I don't think is nearly as good as this film. Anyway, that about does it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on Escape from New York in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.